Well, hey, good morning. Hey everyone, James with Lenspiration here. Wholesome place to learn photography. Today I'm shooting the latest Shoot to Serve photo assignment. It's Just Like Jesus. We need a picture to illustrate this hymn. And as I was reading the lyrics this morning, I was thinking about how breaking clouds. And I looked at the forecast and I was like, hey, this is a pretty good day for that sort of thing. It's mostly cloudy, except we've got some spots of blue up there, and the sun just may peek through. And I didn't know exactly where to go, and so I looked around. Where would the sun be shining in the morning? Where would it hit the landscape earliest? And I remembered this little park that I used to come to as a child with Grandma and Grandpa. And it happens to be, as you can see, the sunlight is already kind of hitting out there a little bit. But just right up the valley, that is facing northeast here in the summertime, looking up that direction. That's where the sun is coming from. So I decided to just scout the place out. It's not exactly the most scenic place in the world, but I think there's plenty of elements to put in the foreground and try to come up with a shot that is, you know, interesting looking and illustrates the idea of the clouds breaking out. And there's a little barn there. It's actually a store, but it kind of looks like an old restored barn up there. So I'm sure we can find some things to take pictures of, and it's just exciting to see the sun coming out like that. There we go, there it is. Let's go over to this fence. There's a barn behind it and the sunlight behind the barn. Let's go up to that fence and try to use some forced perspective on that. I did my best to cover up the distractions like the telephone poles, wires, and houses in the background by simply composing the fence in front of them. I'm not too keen on this perspective, but it does help show that there is, you know, the storm clouds above. Usually when I'm doing forced perspective, I try to use a nice wide-angle lens, and that allows objects in the foreground to appear larger than they actually are, and as well as include a lot of the sky, which is what I want in this type of photo. Now that the sun is behind some clouds and the sun isn't shining anymore, I'm just going to walk around and see if I can find some better compositions in the area, and then just wait for the sun to come out again. I wasn't planning on talking about how to implement forced perspective in your photos in this video today, but I thought it was an interesting location to try to implement it here. It kind of bends in toward the barn a little bit, and just set the camera up as close as I could to the gravel. Evidently the dogs in the neighborhood are not used to photographers coming and taking pictures in the park in the morning. But for those of you who are members, feel free to use the link in the description to learn more about forced perspective. Now I'm going to keep this shot here until the clouds break. I've been waiting here for a few minutes, setting up the composition, getting it looking nice. But I noticed there was the blue clouds coming over from the west, over I guess in that area sort of. Coming in, and there's now kind of some blue right up here, and the sun is starting to break and hit the hillside over there. So I'm hoping that that will be kind of a way to capture that idea of the sun breaking through the clouds. When the sun came out the first time, I feel like I was able to get a shot of the sun in the sky, enough that I could at least Photoshop maybe some sun rays. However, the light didn't hit the landscape and make it appear that the sun was shining on the landscape. It wasn't strong enough light. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wait. I've noticed there's a patch of blue coming in. And I'm just gonna wait for that blue patch to come in and hopefully light up that landscape, take a couple more shots, and then hopefully merge them together a little bit in Lightroom or Photoshop to be able to get that effect of the sun bursting through the storm clouds. Well, that was the patch of blue sky. So I'm just gonna go find another location. It's recording. So I tried a couple different things. I went down the road to where the church is, down that way, down where the churches are, and there was nothing spectacular there. There's this puddle down here. I thought it was kind of cool. The idea of the storm clouds reflecting in the water, I thought that was kind of interesting. I biked here to this part of the trail and tried like shooting down the trail, looking up at the clouds, and that didn't work too terribly well. So I think the images that are going to be best are the ones that I took with the fence in the foreground, or potentially the one with the barn. I'll have to determine that later. But at any rate, it is now your turn to go shoot this assignment. Challenge yourself, find some stormy clouds with the sun breaking through. Illustrating the hymn, it's just like Jesus. Try to incorporate the forced perspective idea if you can. Details for this assignment are also in the link in the description below. And here's a little tip for those of you who stay to the end. Have you ever been out on a nice, warm summer day, especially when it's high humidity? You take off your lens cap and it looks like this. You know how to prevent that from happening? Number one, don't put the lens cap in your pocket, because then it gets very warm, and when it goes on the front of the lens, which is cooler in the air than in your pocket, then the water condenses. Well, if you forget and do put your lens cap in the pocket, put a filter on the front of the lens as well, and when you take off the lens cap, we'll take the filter off with it, and bingo, look at that, you've got a clear, clean lens. If you like this video, feel free to give me a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, give me a thumbs down. And if you'd like to know what the next photo assignment is going to be, feel free to subscribe by clicking on my face. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you learned a lot. Keep learning with Lenspiration, and we'll see you next time.